This is the Korean peninsula, a 1,000-kilometer strip of land that people have been fighting over for centuries. Split into two countries, it's home to an estimated 75 million people, 25 million in the north and 50 million in the south. But it hasn't always been like this. So how did we get two Koreas, and why is this area such a flashpoint? It's all about location. Located between China and Russia to the north and Japan to the south, it's a strategic peninsula for a number of reasons, like controlling key trading routes and as a potential staging ground for attacks. Not surprisingly, China, Russia, Japan, and the US have all exerted their influence over Korea at one time or another, sparking a number of conflicts. By the turn of the 20th century, after 2,000 years of primarily Chinese control, Japan formally annexed Korea in August 1910. Japanese rule was harsh. Even today, there's a lingering bitterness toward Japan. Japan's hold on Korea ended with the Second World War when it surrendered to the Allies. Korea was temporarily split at that 38th parallel until an independent and unified Korean government could be established. And in the meantime, the Soviet Union would control the north with the US in control of the south. Why the 38th parallel? Well, because a pair of pressed-for-time US officers chose it arbitrarily from a National Geographic map. So the two Koreas were born, with UN plans for fair and democratic elections for both. But that didn't happen. In the north, Soviet-backed Kim Il-sung, he's the grandfather of this guy, set up a brutal communist dictatorship, while in the south, the US-backed a fierce anti-communist, Syngman Rhee, and the US military pulled out. At this point, the Cold War was in its third year. Both leaders claimed sovereignty over the entire peninsula. Then Kim, with Mao and Stalin's support and Soviet arms, attempted to unify Korea by force, thus starting the Korean War. Northern troops crossed the 38th parallel and with no US soldiers to help repel them, quickly cornered the south. But the Americans came back, leading a UN coalition that also included some 26,000 Canadians to push the north back. They did, and advanced, taking the northern capital, Pyongyang. This was uncomfortably close for the Chinese, so China joined the North Korean effort, helped stop the UN advance, and push coalition forces back behind that dividing line. This back and forth continued. After 3 years and more than 2 million people killed, including 516 Canadians, the war hit a stalemate. An Armistice Agreement was signed, leaving that dividing line pretty much where it started. A side note, an armistice is not the same as a peace treaty, so technically the two countries are still at war. Today, the North and South are separated by this, a 4-kilometer-wide stretch known as the DMZ, the Demilitarized Zone. A misnomer, because actually it's the world's most militarized border. Today, 7 decades later, the truce still holds, but the region is in a chronic state of tension. North Korea, under leader Kim Jong-un, is a nuclear state, and its ongoing missile launches and nuclear tests have created what Japan has called the greatest security threat since the Second World War. While other countries have nuclear weapons, North Korea is the only one to actively threaten to use them against the US and turn its neighbors into a, quote, sea of fire. In the meantime, China remains North Korea's closest ally. As its biggest source of aid and trade, Beijing is arguably the sole guarantor of Kim's regime. And Russia? After China, Russia is North Korea's next biggest backer. And like Beijing, the Kremlin has supported recent UN sanctions against North Korea, while also being accused of flouting them. The fiery and furious exchanges over the past year between Trump and Kim have ratcheted up tensions, put the whole world on edge, and seemingly pushed a solution to the conflict farther out of reach. As for South Korea, 2018 opened with signs of a possible short-term thaw between Seoul and Pyongyang. Both sides agreed to talks, and the North said it would participate in the South's Olympic Winter Games. But as the past has shown, tempers can flare and talks can end suddenly, with both countries returning to their old positions. The geopolitics are obviously complex, and we've glossed over a bit in the interest of brevity. For more on the region and how it impacts today, check out our sources and get complete coverage on CBCNews.ca.